The Louisville summer heat clung to Sarah's skin as she clutched her ticket, her 13-year-old fingers trembling with excitement. For months, she had saved every penny from helping at her father's barbershop, sweeping floors, and organizing supplies after school. This wasn't just any boxing match. Muhammad Ali, the hometown hero who had risen from the same streets she walked daily, was returning to defend his heavyweight title. "Daddy, do you think we'll get to see him up close?" Sarah asked, her eyes wide with hope as they approached the gleaming arena, its lights cutting through the evening sky. If this story has already made you feel something, no matter how small, don't leave without giving back. Comment and tell me where you're watching this video from, and subscribe to the channel. James Williams squeezed his daughter's hand, pride warming his chest. "I don't know, baby girl, but just being here, breathing the same air as the champ, that's something special." He straightened his best Sunday tie, the one he wore only for church and special occasions. Tonight was definitely special. The line outside the arena moved slowly, a river of excitement and anticipation. Sarah had never seen so many people gathered in one place, all buzzing with the same electric energy. Some wore fancy clothes that cost more than her father made in 3 months, while others, like them, had on their best outfits, pressed carefully the night before. As they reached the entrance, Sarah handed her ticket to the attendant, a tall man with cold eyes and a pressed uniform. He glanced at the ticket, then at Sarah and her father, his expression changing. "These tickets aren't valid for this entrance," he said, loud enough for others to hear. James frowned, examining the tickets he'd purchased weeks ago. "Sir, these are legitimate tickets. Section 14, row 22. The attendant's voice hardened. "You people need to use the colored entrance around back." He gestured vaguely toward the side of the building. Sarah felt her father stiffen beside her. She'd experienced this before. The dismissive looks, the subtle and not so subtle reminders that some doors weren't meant for people who looked like her. But tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight was about witnessing greatness. "There's no such thing as a colored entrance anymore," James said quietly, his dignity a shield against the growing stares from people in line behind them. "The Civil Rights Act, I don't make the rules." The attendant cut him off. "Either use the proper entrance or leave." Sarah felt the weight of dozens of eyes on her, some curious, some embarrassed, others coldly satisfied. Her cheeks burned with humiliation as tears threatened to spill. The magical evening she had dreamed about for months was crumbling before it even began. "Come on, Sarah," her father said, his voice tight but gentle. "Let's go." "But Daddy, the fight—" "Some fights happen outside the ring, baby girl," he whispered, guiding her away from the entrance, away from the stares and whispers that followed them like shadows. As they walked, Sarah's tears finally broke free, sliding down her cheeks. It wasn't fair. She had saved and dreamed and hoped, only to be turned away because of something she couldn't change, would never want to change: the color of her skin. What neither Sarah nor her father realized was that someone had witnessed the entire exchange, someone whose presence would transform their evening in ways they couldn't imagine. In the arena's private lounge, Muhammad Ali adjusted his custom-made Italian silk tie, a gift from a wealthy European fan. The room buzzed with pre-fight energy. As promoters, journalists, and millionaire sponsors mingled, champagne glasses clinking against the backdrop of muted excitement. 15 minutes, champ," his trainer Angelo Dundee announced, checking his solid gold Rolex, another luxury that had become commonplace in Ali's world of championship belts and Cadillac limousines. Ali nodded, his mind already transitioning into the focused state he needed before stepping into the ring. That's when he overheard 2 security guards talking near the doorway. Williams and his daughter turned them away at the main entrance, one said, adjusting his radio. Told them to use the side door or leave. The side entrance that doesn't exist anymore? The other replied with a knowing chuckle. Ali's attention sharpened. He moved closer, his 6'3" frame commanding immediate respect as he approached the men. "What's this about someone being turned away?" he asked, his voice carrying the natural authority that made people listen, whether in the ring or out of it. The guards shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware of who was asking. "Just protocol, Mr. Ali. Nothing to concern yourself with before." "The big fight," Ali's eyes narrowed. "Everything concerns me in my house, now talk." Reluctantly, they explained the situation. A black barber and his young daughter with legitimate tickets turned away at the main entrance by a staff member who claimed they needed to use a colored entrance that hadn't existed since segregation, was legally ended. Without a word, Ali strode out of the lounge, past the startled millionaire investors who had paid $10,000 each for pre-fight access, past his trainer calling his name, past the security detail scrambling to keep up with him. His patent leather shoes clicked purposefully against the marble floors as he moved through the arena's exclusive platinum-level corridors. Outside, Sarah and her father had made it halfway across the parking lot when a sleek black Lincoln Continental with custom wheels pulled up beside them. The driver's window rolled down to reveal a face that Sarah had only seen on television and in the newspaper clippings she collected in her scrapbook. "You leaving my fight before it even starts?" Muhammad Ali asked. His smile warmed despite the fire in his eyes. Sarah froze, her mouth open in disbelief. James stood equally stunned, his hand protectively on his daughter's shoulder. "Mr. Ali," James finally managed. "It's an honor, sir, but there seems to be some confusion with our tickets." Ali stepped out of the car, his championship ring catching the light from the arena. Around them, people stopped and stared, cell phones and cameras capturing the moment. The heavyweight champion of the world stood in a parking lot, talking to a barber and his daughter. "No confusion," Ali said loud enough for the gathering crowd to hear. "Just ignorance, and we're about to clear that up." He looked at Sarah, whose tears had dried in her shock. "What's your name, little sister?" "Sarah," she whispered. "Sarah Williams. Well, Sarah Williams, how would you like to walk into that arena with the prettiest and the greatest fighter in all of history?" A smile broke across her face like sunrise. "Yes, sir, I would like that very much." Ali turned to James. "You mind if I borrow your daughter for a grand entrance, Mr. Williams? I promise to return her with a story worth telling." James nodded, emotion making it difficult to speak. "It would be our honor." Ali offered his arm to Sarah, who took it with trembling fingers. "Let's go educate some folks," he said, leading her and her father back toward the arena's main entrance, where a crowd had already begun to gather. Word spreading like wildfire that the champ was making an unscheduled appearance outside. The attendant who had denied Sarah and her father entry earlier blanched when he saw Muhammad Ali approaching, the same girl and her father beside him. Behind them, several of Ali's entourage followed, including two of his wealthy business partners in tailored suits worth thousands of dollars. "This the man?" Ali asked Sarah, though his eyes never left the attendant's face. Sarah nodded, shrinking, slightly behind Ali's protective presence. The crowd that had gathered fell silent, sensing the tension in the air. Camera flashes popped like lightning as Ali stopped directly in front of the attendant, whose name tag read, "Richard." "Richard," Ali said, his voice carrying across the now hushed entrance hall. "You turned away my personal guests." The man swallowed, hard. "Sir, I was just following—" "Following what?" Ali interrupted. "Not the law, not human decency. So what exactly were you following, Richard?" The arena manager rushed forward, his diamond-studded cufflinks catching the light as he attempted damage control. "Mr. Ali, this is clearly a misunderstanding." "Nothing's unclear about it," Ali replied, his voice remaining measured but powerful. "This man told my guests to use a colored entrance that doesn't exist in 1974. After I've spent years fighting not just opponents in the ring, but this kind of ignorance outside it." The manager's face flushed red with embarrassment as he realized cameras were capturing every moment. "I assure you, this doesn't reflect our policy." "Then fire him," Ali said simply. A gasp rippled through the crowd. The manager looked trapped between the fury of the heavyweight champion and the public relations disaster unfolding in real time. "Mr. Ali," Richard began, his voice quavering. "I'm not finished," Ali cut him off. "See, I could just walk away. I could take my championship fight somewhere else. There are plenty of arenas that would love to host me." He paused, looking around at the crowd, at the luxury and money that surrounded them. The diamond jewelry, the fur coats, the evidence of wealth and privilege. But running doesn't fix the problem. And I'm not in the business of running. He turned to Sarah, whose eyes were wide with admiration. "Miss Sarah Williams here saved for months to buy a ticket to see me fight. Her daddy works hard as a barber to provide for his family. They are exactly who I fight for. Not just the people in the $10,000 seats or the ones wearing mink coats." He nodded toward his business associates, who looked uncomfortable but nodded in agreement. Ali then did something unexpected. He removed his championship belt, the physical symbol of his status as the greatest boxer in the world, and placed it around Sarah's shoulders. The heavy gold nearly overwhelmed her small frame, but she stood taller, straighter, as if drawing strength from its weight. "Tonight," Ali announced, "Sarah Williams and her father will sit ringside as my honored guests, and tomorrow this arena will demonstrate that it understands we're in a new era by implementing 3 changes." He held up one finger. "First, Richard here will be enrolled in sensitivity training, not fired, because hatred isn't cured by creating more hardship." A second finger joined the first. "Second, this arena will start a program to bring 500 underprivileged kids to sporting events each year, free of charge." A third finger. "And third, they'll hire James Williams as a consultant to review their entrance policies and staff training." The arena manager, seeing no alternative that wouldn't result in public relations suicide, nodded quickly. "Consider it done, Mr. Ali." "Good," Ali said with his characteristic smile returning. "Now I've got a fight to win." Sarah never forgot that night. Not just because she watched Muhammad Ali defend his title from the best seats in the arena, or because she met celebrities and millionaires who treated her with unexpected respect. She remembered it because it was the first time she truly understood what her father meant when he said, "Some fights happen outside the ring." As the years passed, Sarah kept the newspaper clippings about that night. The headline read, "Ali's Greatest Fight. Champion's young fan against discrimination." The story had gone national, then international. What began as a moment of humiliation transformed into a catalyst for change. The arena kept its promises. Richard completed his training and, surprisingly, became one of the most vocal advocates for inclusivity in venue management. The program for underprivileged youth expanded beyond the initial 500, eventually providing opportunities for thousands of children to experience live sports and entertainment. And James Williams' consulting work led to a full-time position overseeing community relations, allowing him to finally open his own barbershop while working to ensure no one else experienced what Sarah had. On Sarah's 18th birthday, 5 years after that fateful night, a package arrived at their home. Inside was a pair of signed boxing gloves and a note in Muhammad Ali's distinctive handwriting. "To Sarah, who taught me that sometimes the most important stance you take is standing beside someone who needs a champion. Keep fighting the good fight." Muhammad Ali. Sarah did keep fighting. The incident inspired her to pursue a law degree, specializing in civil rights. By her 30th birthday, she had established a foundation that helped minorities navigate discrimination in public spaces. Funded in part by several of the wealthy business associates she had met through Ali that night. When she opened her law office in downtown Louisville, She displayed Ali's gloves and note in a glass case in the reception area. Below them, she placed her own message. There will always be arenas where people try to deny you entry. Find your voice, stand your ground, and remember that sometimes the greatest among us will stand beside you when it matters most. On the day Muhammad Ali passed away in 2016, Sarah, now a respected judge, sat in her chambers and reflected on how a single act of kindness and courage had altered not just her life, but countless others through the ripple effects of that night. The man who had proclaimed himself the greatest had proven his greatness not just by what he accomplished in the ring, but by what he stood for outside it, by how he used his privilege and platform to lift others when they needed it most. If you made it this far and felt every word, won't you leave without subscribing? I tell these stories with my heart in my hand to reach people like you, who feel, who get emotional, who live. If this truly touched you, give back, comment, subscribe, come be part of this family with me until the next video.